Welcome to BFC Live, the daily video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. BFC Live highlights the companies, brands, people, and trends driving the global cannabis sector. Learn more at businessofcannabis.ca. Our BFC Live guest today is Paul Peterson. He's the co-founder and CEO of Next Leaf Solutions, an extraction company in British Columbia. We wanted to check in with him about all things Next Leaf Solutions and protecting IP in the cannabis space. Paul Peterson, you are the co-founder and CEO of Next Leaf Solutions. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, Jay.
Well, you may not remember this, but just over a year ago, which seems like a decade, I think I saw you for like a minute late February in Toronto. Is that possible?
I think that was my last trip to Toronto pre-pandemic. So
yeah, doesn't it seem like 10 years ago?
It was a different world back then.
I know. It seems like so much has changed, and it was literally like it was the last week in February, so it was really as things were just about to shut down. Well, nice to see you again. We wanted to have you back on this bright and early on a Monday morning to talk about what's going on at Next Leaf. And for those that don't know, tell us a little bit about Next Leaf and where you guys are now. Then I have a couple more questions because I want to get an update from you.
Next Leaf is a licensed cannabis processor in Greater Vancouver. We hold one of the largest patent portfolios in the United States for the extraction, purification, and delivery of cannabinoids. It's been a very busy sort of let's call it the last 12 months. I always talk about the time pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, but for us, we've gotten our custom engineered automated extraction plant into production, commissioned it with about 3 tons of weed that had been sitting in vaults. So, obviously there's a lot of inventory. That's really what's driving our business. So when we started the company 4 years ago, the focus was developing IP and building a licensed processing facility that could process into distillate all this lower grade biomass that we were expecting would come online with the investment in large scale cultivation. And so for us, it's been a busy start to the year. We finished 2020 with a large CBD distillate shipment to a company, one of the largest brands in Canada here. We're seeing a lot of these companies that now are realizing, hey, we can run a better business by outsourcing part of our operation. So we're seeing a lot of wholesale supply deals with companies that invested in extraction and now outsourcing to Next Leaf and other third-party extractors. We really feel that our competitive advantage is in our intellectual property and our cannabis refinery that's we feel is very efficient in turning this lower grade biomass into a higher purity distillate. We're really building a company around putting the distillate into forms that are more sellable and obviously supplying our commercial partners.
Well, it's interesting. There aren't that many people. I'm about to give you a compliment, so are you ready? There aren't that many people that have been saying the same thing for years. They continue to say the same thing. And when they do, it's refreshing. That shouldn't be refreshing in cannabis, but it really is, right? You've been saying the same thing since we met you about where you think the world will be going over time, both in terms of quantity of biomass, as you put it, but also the demand for the distillate that you'll be building towards or refining to. But the part that also you've been talking about a lot is the IP, right? Is actually becoming an IP focused business because that's where every industry goes, right? Like from infancy to locking down exactly what you do well. Talk a little bit about that as a strategy. And then I have a specific question of probably the most high profile IP fight we've seen so far.
I remember about 2.5 years ago, I heard Bruce Linton speak in Sydney, Australia. And something that he said that it really resonated. He talked about there was kind of 2 types of businesses that could be really successful in cannabis. Those with a brand and you're in the consumer space, or those with a stack of intellectual property. And he talked a lot about Canopy's 80 pending patents that they had at the time. And we really felt that we were on the right track. Obviously, we've never raised as much capital as Bruce and Canopy has, but we feel that our intellectual property portfolio rivals some of these larger cannabis companies, pharma companies, And you know, for us, the IP is really all around how do you you know, take this lower grade biomass and extract it, refine it, and distill it into a standardized cannabinoid, an API or an ingredient that we think that you know, ultimately is a commodity that really will drive a lot of the consumer products that are infused with that standardized THC or CBD molecule.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you brought up Bruce Linton and Canopy, although he's not there anymore. There is a patent battle going on, or you're going to describe me what it actually is. It's an intellectual property battle between Canopy Sue GW Pharma, so two sort of giants going after one another around. Is it an extraction process specifically that Canopy
Yeah,
sued on?
yeah, it is. It was it's a CO2 based extraction process that, you know, if this was 2014, 2015, 2016, it'd be the most revolutionary process in Canada. But in 2021, it's not a commercially viable process, but obviously it is allegedly a process that GW is using to make their CBD based drug in the UK. And you know, interestingly, it was a lawsuit that Canopy Growth launched the day after they were issued the U.S. patent. So you know, for us, I think it was December 23rd. So it was an early Christmas present because over the last 2 years, been flying around the world. You know, we raised $20 million on a vision for Nextly, and we've you know, funded our business based on the idea that there was value in developing intellectual property around our extraction process that we think is the most efficient method to get to a refined, standardized molecule. And so it was, you know, for us to kind of be validated, have that strategy validated, we were pretty excited about it. But I mean, obviously, I think it isn't great what it means for the industry as well. I mean, then if you look at GW Pharma, a month after they got sued by Canopy, now they've just been acquired by Jazz Pharmaceuticals, 7.2 billion. And I think it represents what's coming. And what's coming is pharmaceutical participation. And I think large tobacco, alcohol, and pharma companies that are going to use intellectual property as a sword. I mean, what we like to say is we use it as a shield, and we use it to build a moat around our what we feel gives us a competitive advantage. But certainly, I think it is something that you know, probably made a lot of lawyers happy to see that lawsuit, because it's really the industry's first patent infringement lawsuit. And I think it's the indicator of all the things to come.
Well, you reference, so we're obviously talking about cannabis. You're a cannabis company, and so is Canopy. But you talk about the others, so tobacco, alcohol, and specifically pharma. And really, pharma is an IP business. That is the business, right? Like it's drug development. It's putting an IP on that. You have, you know, monopoly on it for a set period of time, and that's where you recoup your R&D cost. Like, is that sort of how you see the world developing in some portion of the sector, especially as pharma gets in and really drives that sort of rigor that they have in other parts of the sort of other sectors?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think you definitely see that with molecules, with cannabinoid molecules, with, you know, with distillate isolates. You will 100%, in my view, see that with not only extraction processes and patents being enforced on extraction processes, just like what, you know, obviously Canopy is trying to do against GW. But I think you'll see that on formulation and deliveries, you know, and tech that is novel. I think you will see companies that take a certain product to market. And again, you look at what GW has done in the United States. I think you'll see a lot more of that in the medical side. And really, those products will be built around IP. And as you said, I mean, that's the pharma model. The pharma model is you spend a bunch of money up front in R&D, you develop a unique drug, and then you're basically paying, or at least how they kind of justify, you know, IP rights, is that you're paying for the R&D over the life of the patent, which is 20 years.
Yeah. Can I ask you another question? I want to zoom out a little bit because obviously there's lots of excitement what's happening or may happen in the States, right? You know, you have the early West Coast states, Colorado, not West Coast, but Colorado and California, the West Coast, add Nevada to that. Then you have some states on the East Coast with pretty robust medical programs rolling out adult use at some point. Then a whole bunch of states in the middle that are actually have voted on it that don't necessarily seem like weed states, but it's happening, right? And then you have the Democratic Senate, Democratic House, and Democrat in the White House, and it's clearly causing a run up of some stocks that are traded in the U.S. that are cannabis. But from a business like yours, talk about what it may mean that the U.S. is giving this serious thought, or at least appears to be giving it more rapid thought than it probably was.
I mean, I think what's happening right now in the U.S. and obviously with Biden getting elected, with now the Democrats controlling the House, I think that the market is expecting that the U.S. is going to legalize maybe in the next 2 years, right? I mean, you see, some of these platforms, Cory Booker, and I think it's going to be very interesting. Now, obviously, what we're seeing in the capital markets is you're seeing a lot of investment flowing into SPACs and flowing into these large MSOs. I actually believe that probably the company that's best set up is probably Cronos Group in Canada, because they've got $1 billion in cash. They've got a operation in the largest federally legal market in the world, and they've got a large tobacco company behind them that is obviously going to be on the forefront of what's happening politically. And so I think, you can really follow the money and see what's going to happen in the U.S. And there's going to be a lot of capital that's going to flow to consolidation. And I think things are going to get harder on, smaller mom and pop businesses. But I really believe that Canadian companies have a tremendous advantage. And I think Aphria and Tilray as well, who have built a business around a regulatory framework. In the U.S., it's the Wild West. I mean, nothing's regulated, right?
Right.
And so I think Canadian companies that have built a business around producing and selling cannabis in the most over-regulated or well-regulated, depending on
your perspective.
Yeah, and I think those companies are going to be very well situated. I think Canada has a once in a century opportunity here to really be a first mover in the United States and globally with the legalization of cannabis.
Yeah, no, it's really, it's look, it's exciting to watch. I'm not saying we're on the sidelines, but interesting to watch things unfold, and whether the capital markets have a good beat on what is actually going to happen, or whether it may be slower or faster, depending on sort of conversations happening in state capitals and in DC. It'll be interesting to watch. But also, I agree with you that there are many Canadian companies that are well positioned to play a role in what might happen in the States, based on how they're regulated now, how they might be regulated in the States, access to capital, already being listed in the States, like all those things, I think will make a difference, as well as sort of the movement of SPACs that are, that are just so interesting to sort of watch unfold.
I still believe, and I said this 2 years ago, I got asked on an ArtView panel how long I think the U.S. is going to be. And I said more than 5 years then. But I actually believe from today, it's probably 3 to 4 years minimum until there's actually a regulated marketplace in the U.S. When you think about Canada, Trudeau was elected 3 years later, legalization, even though we had a federally regulated medical market. I mean, there's not a federally regulated medical market in the U.S. There's a lot of infrastructure that they got to put in place. Even with the Farm Bill, the FDA still doesn't have comprehensive regulations around CBD products. So I think, for us as a company, we will never invest in a production asset in the U.S. until there's regulated framework in place. And, we're going to continue to develop IP down there. And, coming back to that, it's why I think we've taken such a focus on U.S. patents. We've got 12 of them, and we're going to keep, developing down there and watching closely, just like all of us up here in Canada in the industry.
Well, Paul, I always love talking to you. I wish we could see you more, and we will get back to that, I promise, because I would say 2019, we saw each other a lot in New Brunswick, I think. We probably saw in Toronto, maybe Vancouver. Let's make 2021, hopefully, the year that we actually get to see each other in person, maybe. Let's say maybe. How's that?
For sure. I look forward to it. I mean, I think I'm expecting, vaccine rollout a little bit back here, traveling again soon. So good.
Well, from your mouth to COVID God's ears, let's make it happen. Paul Peterson, thanks for joining us here this morning. We look forward to connecting with you down the road, and good luck to everything next Leaf.
Thanks, Greg. Really appreciate it.
A
Our work is made possible with the ongoing support of our official partners, including Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, CanDelta, Gallagher, and Torque & Mains.